Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sohail Nakshab. I am the chair of the Uptown Planners. Welcome to our March 2nd meeting of 2021. Hopefully everybody is in good health with this amazing San Diego weather that we have here. I'd like to allow my board to introduce themselves as well, please, one at a time.
Dennis Sason, Hillcrest.
Gail Freed, Hillcrest.
Hi, this is Bill Smith, University Heights.
Bob Daniel, Mission Hills.
Stephen Klein, Mission Hills.
This is Clint Daniels.
Roy Dahl, Hillcrest.
Bill Ellig, University Heights.
Matt Medeiros in Hillcrest.
Tom
Mulaney, Mission Hills.
Are we missing anybody else here? No, that's it. That's everybody for today's meeting. Great.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes. All right. Adoption of agenda. Are there any changes to this agenda anybody wants to propose?
So Hill, I'd like to move the items 3 and 4, the map waivers, to the consent agenda, please.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Bill Smith says aye.
Are there any opposition to this move? No abstentions. Great. Wonderful. We will move the action items 3 and 4 to consent. They have been approved. If you are here as a presenter for project 672400 map waiver for the 7 residential condos at 3787 Center Street, thank you for joining us today. You do not need to stay with us this evening. I appreciate you making yourselves available. The same applies to project 674250, which is the tentative map waiver for the property located at 4080 Center Street. Appreciate you joining us. Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Oh, well, there is a point of order here. So there's really 2 actions. The first action is moving it to the consent agenda, but those people should not leave yet because any board member or any member of the public can request that it be pulled off the consent agenda. So
Okay.
all we're doing at this time is moving it to a different part of the agenda.
Okay, no problem. We'll get back to that. So hang tight for a second, guys. If you're here for either one of those 2 projects, let's move to the next item, which is the approval of the meeting minutes. Do we have what's the last meeting minute that we have that we posted up?
December.
So last month's meeting minutes have yet to be posted. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so this is Clint. I sent those to you and Gail this morning. So at some point in the next few days, they'll go up, but they're not up there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get to them. I post everything and I get to them as soon as I can. So yeah, they weren't posted.
I appreciate you guys. I know everybody's busy. So at least we're caught up to December. Are there any changes we need to make to any of those meeting minutes, or are we good to go with those? No? Okay, so we're approving the meeting minutes up to December, and then we will get the minutes from February posted for review and approval at our next meeting. Do we have any CPC updates, Clint?
I did not attend the last CPC meeting. There were no action items on the CPC agenda either. So I don't have an update.
Tom, did you attend by chance? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
That was a no, he did not.
No, he did not. Okay, that's it.
Lip reading.
Let's go to our operations and outreach committee. Can you guys please give me an update from your end as well, please?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. We had a good meeting yesterday to talk through everything around the elections and the bylaws and kind of how to move forward with that. The take that we're taking, we have we have Zach's seat, which is empty, so that is a vacated seat. What we're going to propose to the board is that the remaining folks who have kind of moved forward and given us their time since March of 2020. Essentially, we're going to ask you to vacate your seat with the as of May 31st. So we'll, at the April meeting, try to solidify that as vacated seats for May 31st, in which case we can then hold an interim election where we will, at that point, move below 12 members and have a 60-day window to refill our seats and have a vacated seat election process in place. We will try to vet people for that election by probably the end of April 30th. Again, this will all be written up for approvals at the April meeting, but we'll try to get candidates in place by the end of April with an election to be had in our June meeting. We'll go through the details of what that election will look like, whether it be online, live, or otherwise. But that's the structure we're under. We want to be able to go through. Also, under the vacated seat provision, we can have people come in and fill the remainder of the terms of the March 2020 election, as opposed to starting a new 4-year stint at the time they enter. This will keep our election sequence in line with what our bylaws are stating, without us having to just be out of whack with our bylaws across the board. So overall, we looked at this as a group, and everything would remain in line with bylaws. We don't believe we have to change any of the bylaws, either temporarily or permanently. We're going to request that in a COVID sense, we go back and allow anyone who had been pre-qualified for that 2020 election be qualified for this. And then we will go essentially partially goodwill on their ability to write down the 2 meetings that they may have attended if someone else is running who might have been in this last year. So this is kind of the process. Again, we'll write it all up in a nice, neat, concise manner for you. But this is, kind of how we looked at how we can move forward on this without having to continue. And especially if we had additional board members fall off, we see us in a tight position where at any point, any of the folks who are nicely giving their time in this kind of extra 1.5 years, if they were to fall off, we'd be in a position of under 12 members. And we don't want to put the board into a position where we're not able to be functional for the Uptown community. So we want to move forward, and this is our best path to be able to do that we've found. So that's feedback for now. Again, we'll have action items at the next meeting, and we'll, I'm sure, discuss it in much greater depth at that point. It's not an action tonight, so this isn't a public period, but we'll be able to take in more comment at that. And we did have, I think, 9 or 10 people attending that meeting. So we had a good cross section of folks overall, and we did reach a 100% consensus in this process of moving forward.
And Matt, I believe we are going to schedule an elections committee notice meeting sometime within the next 30 days.
That is my understanding as well. And that would hopefully be to start the process of acquiring candidates, as well as looking for volunteers who will help us through the vetting process of the voting populace. Again, trying to get a comfort level on those volunteers, whether or not those volunteers were vaccinated and would do live in person, or whether we do an online vetting process. But we do want to kind of stay arm's length, and also didn't want to be in a position where the Uptown planners are taking driver's licenses and other sensitive data from people. So we're coming up with some solutions there to try to do this in a privacy safe mode as well as a health safe mode. But it does give us a window between now and June where we believe that we can move forward.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Absolutely.
Oh, can I just ask that people not use the chat as a communication, over communication, just because as you're taking notes and then there's chat stuff and it's, so I think we need to go back to a couple items here
Okay, and that I just opened up my chat, so I need to go back and touch on a few things.
Well, Sohail, there's an important point of order here. I see that one of the presenters says he's going to leave, but again, the consent items haven't been approved yet. So Mr. Dutton.
I'll reiterate. I'll reiterate. No one, please, if you're here for any of the items on our agenda, please wait, hang tight. Let me go back to the adoption of the meeting minutes for December. Matt Wallstrom message stating that he has an objection on the December minutes. Matt, feel free to shoot an email over what it is exactly that your objection is regarding, and we will address accordingly. So we will not adopt the December minutes today until we see what Matt's objection is, unless he wants to send me.
He put it in the chat under action item 3. There's an editorial judgment appended to his comment, which needs to be struck.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Okay. Do we have any issues with this alteration? No? Is this? Okay.
So I would move that we strike the sentence that Mr. Wallstrom finds objectionable.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, great. We will make that adjustment.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Steve.
Steve, thanks.
We'll adjust that on the December minutes. And with that said, we will adopt minutes based on striking that comment. Okay, let me see. Other item is pertaining to, I gotta look at my chat. Give me a second, guys. Okay, I think I'm caught up. We'll get to the action items in a second.
I don't think we've done it yet, but I move to approve the agenda as we've stated with the 2 consent agenda items. And let's just see if someone's going to pull that.
Great. Let us move to representatives of elected officials. Who do we have?
Hi, you have me, Barbara Castillo Moreno from Senate Pro Tem Tony Atkins' office. I know you have a busy schedule today, so I will try to keep this brief as much as I can. Lots of legislation happening since the last time I met with you all and you had a meeting. So I'll touch on a few of them. They're mostly emergency budget items that have been passed. The first is just last week, the legislature passed the Golden State stimulus package. It's $7.6 billion in relief funding. $2 billion of that are grants and tax cuts for small businesses. There are $600 stimulus checks for low-income recipients and $857 million in restored funding for the UC system, California state universities, and the courts. There are continuing negotiations actually going on for additional tax cuts as they relate to businesses, and we hope to have something to report in the coming weeks. So when all is said and done, the total relief package could be over $10 billion in relief. On top of that, in February, we also passed Senate Bill 91, which was the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act, which was the extension of the eviction moratorium through June. And there is about $45 million in COVID rent relief from the state that's starting to flow into the city and the county. So you should be seeing and hearing about those applications opening up for folks who are in need. And finally, the legislation that's not officially passed yet, it's a proposal that was announced Monday, which is SB 86. It has a twin in the Assembly, AB 86, and that's the $6.6 billion legislation to get the schools reopened. It breaks down to $2 billion for school safety measures, such as PPE, COVID testing, ventilation upgrades, and the other $4.6 billion would be for schools to address any learning loss and other pandemic impacts on students. As proposed, it would set an April 1st reopening deadline for schools. The districts don't have to apply for the funding, they get it automatically. But if they don't open by that April 1st date, they start to lose 1% of their incentive funding for every week and day that they're closed. So hopefully that will be passed this week. Again, lots going on. And then as far as vaccinations go, the latest number at the state level is 9.3 million vaccines have been distributed in the state. We're excited to hear that Johnson & Johnson vaccines are on the trucks, and we're expecting those shipments potentially in the next week. The first batch is about 386,000 doses. So with that, I will pass the mic. If anyone has any questions, I'll put my email in the chat, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Barbara. All right, any other representatives? Going once, going twice. All right, thank you. Let's move to public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, go ahead and just private message me or raise your hand, and I can see you on my screen, and I'll unmute you from my end. All right, I see Andrew Spurlock. Go ahead, sir.
Is this the time to talk about the agenda item which is on the consent list?
We will get to that momentarily, but are you here for that specific item?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to you in a moment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I'm looking for hands. No, doesn't. I would like to make a non-agenda public comment. Matt Wallstrom. Okay, go ahead, Matt. Matt, are you? Oh my God. Okay, Matt Wallstrom has posted his public comment in the chat for all to read. All right, let's go to the next public comments. Lou Railing, welcome.
Thanks. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that someone at some point will explain this procedural thing that's under consideration about whether something is an action item or a consent item. I don't understand it. And so whatever you decide to do, I would just love to learn in the process what it's about.
So I made a little bit of an error. So typically what we do is if there's something on the agenda and a board member would like to make a suggestion or recommendation to put it on as a consent item, we move it into a consent section. But then before we take any action on finally approving that consent item, we ask the public to make sure if there's anyone here in opposition of that being consent item, or if there's any board members in opposition of being a consent item, so that it gets pulled off of that consent agenda. Otherwise, if there's no opposition and everything's fine and dandy, then it gets approved and we move forward.
And you're going to ask that question later.
I will ask that momentarily after public comment is over.
Thanks.
All right. Any other public comments? I'm looking to see if there's anyone else here. Doesn't look like we have anybody else with their hands raised for public comment. All right, great. So let's move on to action items. We initially started this meeting by placing action items 3 and 4 into the consent section. And unfortunately, I don't have a consent section listed on this, but is there anyone here in attendance that would like us to pull either one of those two projects from consent? Okay, Mr. Spurlock, can you unmute yourself? Here, I got you. There you go.
Okay, it's item number 3, project 67-2400. We need some more information.
So
it doesn't seem like the issue is the same that was originally noticed.
So just so I could provide some clarity before we go into that item. So this specific item is for a map waiver to condo the property. So this project was originally approved and is currently under construction as an apartment. And this is a very typical thing builders and developers do, is while a project is being built as an apartment, they go and in parallel, they process a tentative map so that they can sell the property as condos. Are you familiar with that process?
Yes.
Okay. And you still have concerns with this project?
Well, we have lack of information about what happened in approval of this project.
Okay, then we will keep action item 3 on the agenda. Is there anyone here in opposition of action item 4 being a consent item for tonight's meeting? I don't see. Okay, so we will keep action item 3 on our agenda, and action item 4 is still a consent item. Can I get a motion to approve action item 4 as consent approval?
This is Tom, and I make a motion to approve action item 4 as the part of the consent agenda.
Can I get a second, please?
Second, Bob.
Daniel, okay. All in favor, can you please raise your hands? I will read your name. Hands up. Bob Daniel, Steve Klein, Dennis Saison, Roy Dahl, Bill Ellig, Matt Medeiros, Tom Mulaney, Gail Fried, Bill Smith, Clint Daniels. I think Stu is on this somewhere too. Great, I see Stu's thumbs up on the screen. All right, so that was unanimous. Wonderful. All right, so let's move on to action item, the selection of executive officers. We have the positions of secretary, vice, and chair. So let's open this up to public comment, please. Do we have anyone that would like to make a comment on this item? If you do, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. No? Okay.
I'm willing to still be treasurer.
You want to be treasurer. Okay, so let's go with that. Is are the existing executive officers willing to stay with their or is there any one of the executive positions?
So Saul has his hand up.
Saul has his hand up. Oh, I see it. All right, so can you unmute yourself, sir?
Yes. I was just wondering why this item is on tonight's agenda, as the bylaws normally have this done at the April meeting instead of the March meeting.
This was a request from last month's meeting that we decided to make an action item for discussion for tonight. So given what we've experienced this past year, the board felt it was important to revisit and address since we've had a lot of fluctuation. So to your question.
It's just that the officers serve for 1 year, and normally that would be from the April meeting, not the March meeting.
A lot of things have been happening a little differently. I understand what the bylaws say, but we just decided as an executive board that we'd bring it to tonight's meeting because it's an unknown for us as far as what's going to happen with our future election for this board. So we want to make sure that the current active board members are willing and able to continue volunteering for these positions. And if there's someone else that would like to one of these positions, feel free to drop your name in the hat. That being said, Roy Dahl is still willing to be our wonderful treasurer. We have the position of secretary, which is vacant at this moment. Vice chair is still here, and chair, obviously I'm sitting here, but if there's anyone that wants to possibly fill any of these other seats, please let me know at this point so we can have a discussion.
As Michael voiced his, I don't see him here today. Maybe did I miss him? To continue as vice chair.
I don't believe Michael is in attendance this evening. We can message him regarding that to see, but I haven't heard him wanting to withdraw from that position. Yes, Tom.
So I do have a comment on this. I'm the one who said I thought it was kind of a long time to go a year without officially, selecting officers. But the new element is the election committee's proposed an election probably for June. So what I think may be more practical is if the board would appoint a new secretary tonight, and then we not take action on officers until after the next election.
I concur with that.
Does anybody want to volunteer for the position of secretary? Or nominate someone for position of secretary? No, no takers?
I'll do it. I'm fine. I'll do it.
Okay, Mr. Daniels would like to volunteer for the position of secretary. Anybody have any issues with that? Can we vote on Mr. Daniels filling in this position?
I move it.
I would say this should be a 3-month seat then, and we reposition at the time we revote for other officers post-election. I just want to put that caveat in there.
I assume this was in perpetuity.
All right, can I get everyone who's in favor of this to raise your hands so that we can solidify this? For the next 3 months, Clint Daniels will be our acting secretary. All right, it looks like we've got unanimous vote on this as well. Wonderful. And then we will reconvene on the other executive positions after the next election takes place. Wonderful. Moving on to action item 2.
I'm bad at this. Who was the first on and second on that? I missed that.
I don't
First
remember.
did for.
I think I did. I was part of it.
Roy first did it.
Okay.
Roy's hand shot up like a rocket on it.
Matt, you got that? Okay. Seconded. Okay.
All right.
Good.
Let's move on. Action item 2, we have the assignment of new subcommittee chair for historic subcommittee. I've been approached by Mr. Ellig as showing a lot of interest in this position. Bill had participated very consistently with that subcommittee. I also received an email from the prior subcommittee chair, Amy Hayes, supporting Bill for this position as he was a great candidate to take the seat. This is open for discussion. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to make comment on Mr. Ellig as being a potential chair for the historic subcommittee? No? Okay.
Failing any comment, I move we approve Bill Ellig.
Hold on one second. Lou has a comment. Go ahead, Lou.
Sorry, I just wanted to support his nomination for that position. You asked, so yes.
Thank you.
Great. Any other public comment regarding Bill Ellig as our future historic subcommittee chair? And can I ask everyone a favor to make sure you've got your microphone on mute if you're not speaking at this moment. There's a lot of background noise popping up. Thank you. All right, and then let's
first from Dennis.
let me go back to the board. So on the board, anyone in objection or anyone else want this potential position? Otherwise, I would love to hear a motion.
I did already.
Okay, Dennis motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Smith is seconding the motion for Bill Ellig as our new subcommittee chair for the historic subcommittee. Wonderful. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you volunteering for that position. All right.
You may want to vote for it, Sohail. I think it'd be unanimous.
All right, let me get everyone's hands raised, please. That is in favor of Bill Ellig as our new chair for the subcommittee. I'm going to read your names real quick, just for the record. Bob Daniels, Steve Klein, Dennis Saison, Roy Dahl, Bill Ellig, Matt Medeiros, Tom Mulaney, Bill Smith, Clint Daniels, Stu McGraw. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. All right. let's go to action item 3. So action item 3 is a map waiver to create 7 residential condominiums, including 1 affordable. Currently, this project is under construction. It is located at 3787 Center Street. It sits on a 0.119 acre site and is located in the RM 3-7 zone and the airport influence area within the Uptown Community Plan Area and City Council District 3. We have presenters here, Maggie Rowland and Kirsten Ekstrom. Welcome.
Hi there, I just unmuted myself.
There you go.
Good evening, Kirsten's not with us.
All right, Maggie, feel free to present this project.
Well, so Hal, I have a point of order, which,
Yes, sir.
Our agenda says it's just a map waiver. Mr. Spurlock indicated that he has something specific to say. I thought you said this project's already approved.
So item 3 we kept back on the agenda. Item 4 is what was moved to consent and approved. Item 3, yes, the project is approved. This specific action item is for a condo map. But I believe Mr. Spurlock has questions regarding this. So we can skip a presentation because this is a very straightforward action item and let Mr. Spurlock ask his specific questions. And Maggie, you can respond to Mr. Spurlock. How does that sound? Yes?
That'd be great. I would like to do a brief presentation of the floor plans and describe the project.
I don't think that would be necessary. There's no reason. Your project is under construction. So let's move to Mr. Spurlock and allow him to make his comments, and then we can hopefully address. Mr. Spurlock.
Okay, my name is Andy Spurlock, or Andrew Spurlock. I'm here with John Richardson. We live across the street from the project at 3792 Center Street in Hillcrest. So our question is, when we got the notice for this project, it seemed to us that the notice was asking for approval of additional units, because we were originally told by the developer that 5 units were approved and they were building 5 units with 10 parking spaces. So then we were surprised to find that it's just the map waiver. So we'd like to know whether there was an additional approval process somewhere along the line that we missed for the change from 5 units to 7 units and the change in the parking.
Okay, Maggie, can you address that?
Certainly. This has an affordable bonus density attached to it. There is a document recorded by the Housing Commission against the entire property. There will be a single affordable unit in the project that will remain affordable. And that's where the density changed. Now,
and when did that occur? Was there any public notice for that?
I doubt it, because it's being built by right. So the permit process does not require a hearing. It's not discretionary. The discretionary part is my presentation, which the question before the board is whether or not you approve this project for individual condominium ownership versus a single investor-owned apartment. So the discretionary part of this application, which requires this presentation to the local planning group and will also require a hearing before the hearing officer, is strictly the question for condominiums. The permit's been issued, the building's under construction, and it's being built by right, which doesn't require a discretionary hearing or a notice.
Okay.
So why did you represent it as a different project when you started construction and far into construction as a 5-unit project?
I have never met you. I don't know who you spoke with. I'm sorry.
The company who is building this project.
I'm a consultant for that company. I'm not sure who you spoke with.
Yeah, John spoke
Because
with,
I spoke with the builder out in front, and I also looked online, and what I saw were 5 units with 10 parking spots, with 2 bedrooms in each unit, one of them with 3.
Okay.
And that's what we saw. That's what we thought was building until we received this notice.
Okay, can I interject now? I've got the information that I need, and hopefully I can address. So this specific property is a ministerial review property. The original project that they designed and permitted on this site did not require any sort of discretionary action, meaning they were not required to have any sort of neighborhood input as far as how many units they put on the site. I understand your frustration with some communication that you may have had with the builder on site where they told you it was 5 units with parking spaces, but they have the right to change the program for the site without any sort of discretionary process. What we're here for this evening does in fact require a discretionary review, which is this tentative map waiver for the condominiumization of the site, where they would like to now convert the apartments to condos for sale for individual ownership. So I'm sorry that this is frustrating, seeing that you were expecting to see one project and a different project is happening, but the property owner has the right to make that change.
Well, can I explain to you why I'm concerned about it?
Sure.
Okay. There were 2 parking spaces per each unit. Now we're going to have 2 more units, which means that there are going to be as many as 4 cars because there will be 2 people in maybe each unit that has been added on, which means they're going to be parking out in the street, on our street. And we have a huge parking problem on Center Street. And it is a consistent problem. We have all kinds of things going on with it, where people are living in their cars for months on end, where people park their cars and go to the airport for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and leave them. We have very little parking enforcement. We do not have street sweeping. We have messes on the street all the time. And this is just going to add more of that. When we thought we were getting 5 units with 10 parking spots, and that we wouldn't have this additional problem added to our neighborhood, which is very restrictive. When we try to have some work done on our house, we have to tell the people that are coming, there isn't any parking usually. If you're lucky enough to find a parking spot, fine, but you're not addressing our problems with this addition.
I
That's all
understand.
I want to say.
I appreciate, I sincerely appreciate your comments. Unfortunately, nothing can be done about what has been approved because this is a ministerial review process. And just for your reference, the city has been advocating and pushing new laws to remove parking. They want 0 parking buildings in this town because they want people to use alternate means of transportation throughout our city, which is why we're seeing so much public improvement with these bike lanes, and we're seeing so much demand for alternate means of transportation. I understand your frustration, but what we need to focus on this evening is this is just a tentative map waiver for a condominiumization of an existing project that is currently under construction. So do you have any specific concerns with the condo map? Because that is what we need to focus on.
Now I have one more comment, which is that the owner should change their website because they're misrepresenting the amount of parking they're offering. They're claiming to offer 1 parking space per bedroom and they're not. So thank you for the opportunity to sound off, and we're done.
Thank you.
I can pass that along. I'm happy to do that.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Could I get the name of, again, who's with you, Mr. Spurlock?
John Richardson, same address.
Thank you.
A married couple.
Thank you. Just
We've
for
been
the-
in our house 25 years.
We understand.
Awesome. Just need it for the minute, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Change is a hard thing, and I totally get it, but we have to follow the policies here, and these are the policies that people have access to. If you have more concerns about these new policies, I highly suggest you reach out to the local politicians and address them accordingly. Because
Thank you.
a lot of these things are vetted and they're voted on. Thank you so much. All right. Do we have any other public comment on action item 3? Yes, Ms. Railing, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm a little confused about the noticing that's gone on with this project because it says on their website, and I'm a neighbor of this project as well, that it's condominiums for rental. And it's been saying that for a long time. And apparently it's still not approved as being condominiums for rental. So I don't understand where the notice just went up about this hearing here like a month ago, and for months they've been saying they're condominiums for rentals. So was there some problem with the timing?
No, this is very typical for developers to start marketing their properties the way that they want them to be when the project is completed. And the process with condominium happens normally while a project is under construction. So here's the issue. If a developer were to go through this process on the front end, they would end up bringing their entire project as a discretionary project before the board prior to any building permit issuance, which causes a lengthy delay for their project to start. So what they do instead is they go in and they permit a project as an apartment, start construction. The day they start construction is the day that they would typically go and start preparing the documentation for the condo map waiver. And then by the time the project is done, because the process usually takes about a year, by the time the project is done, they have the condo map and now they can go and start selling these units.
Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
So Hel, this is an important item. So I do have a question from you. Is it true that only the map waiver is process 3? I didn't think you could have a project where the project itself was one process and a map waiver was another.
So the project itself, because it was permitted as an apartment, is ministerial. It's not triggering any discretionary process levels.
Is that in the cycle issues?
It wouldn't be in the cycle issues, Tom. The project never had to go through any sort of discretionary review. By right, they could go and do the apartment building that they have already started constructing on that site.
Okay. I was just looking for part of that in our 27 pages of cycle issues. It's not clear to me.
No, those cycle comments are specifically for the condo mapping, and they're going to be, a lot of them are going to be very generic comments. All right.
Redundant.
Yes. Do we have any other public comment on this item? No. Do we have a board comment on this item? No.
I make a motion
Sorry,
to
Al.
approve.
Sorry, Al.
Yes, sir.
I understand what these two gentlemen are totally going through. It seems to be indicated by what's the policies that the city has been moving towards, with more projects going by right and getting out of the discretionary aspects. My personal feeling is that this eliminates the community members, the residents who live around them, to be able to provide any input. Unfortunately, this is the case. It would have to be changed at a council level or something like that. But I empathize with the two gentlemen, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Thank you.
Bill, I appreciate your comment. I mean, there are plenty of properties in this city that are already by right sites as far as development procedures are concerned. Typically, the sites that we find to trigger the discretionary are sites that have environmental issues, steep hillside issues, CEQA issues. Those are the sites that are really the big ticket concern items. But these other sites, they're already geared up for the redevelopment within these urban infill settings. And I get it. I mean, change. All right. I had a motion from Mr. Daniels. Any other board comments before we take Mr. Daniels' motion? No?
I just have a question. Does it matter what we vote?
Does it matter what we vote?
Yeah.
Well, they're looking for our board to unanimously approve this condo map waiver for their project so they can proceed with the formalities.
But I mean, if we voted by chance not to approve it, would it make any difference?
If we voted not to approve it, I'm sure city staff is going to have to look for findings to determine why we wouldn't approve it. I mean, the structure is there.
Yeah.
They-
No, and I'm not being facetious, but it's all ministerial, so I don't even see why we have to spend time on this, but let's vote on it anyway.
All right.
I would like to just chime in that that's the sentiment across the city with these condo waivers applications after the fact. Because in the old days, some areas like the Peninsula Planning Group is really tough. And basically the project manager would send you your cycle and say, it's time to present, just know they're going to deny you. So it is read into the record at the hearing of what the local planning group's desires are. So it is read into the record. And in other planning groups, I have an approval with a caveat about why you think the process is broken and you feel like you're wasting your time. And I appreciate that, and I completely understand. I sympathize with everybody here. It's the process the city has set up for us. So if you'd like to express that and you want it to be heard in the record, you can make it part of your resolution. That's my only suggestion.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other board comments?
I'd like to add.
I will note that I would vote against this because I consistently vote against all of these because of the process you described, Suhail. And so just for consistency, I will be voting against it.
Thank you for letting us know that. Tom, go ahead. What were you saying?
I'd like to add, because I was involved in condo projects a little bit myself in a former job. Yeah, a condominium is considered a subdivision, as I understand it, Sohail, and right? If you could confirm that.
It's almost like it's like a subdivision, but not quite. It's a cloud of little parcels within the parcel.
All right. But nevertheless, it does need a discretionary review, and that's why it's before us. I understand what you're saying. The apartment building itself did not require a discretionary review. And I do want to second what Bill Ellick said, that the tendency towards making more and more projects ministerial does shut out the public. People contact us and say, what's the project going up across the street from me? And the Uptown planners has to say, we don't know. We don't even get a notice. So when this comes up as far as city policies, I think we need to weigh in on this.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I know this project, you get the density bonus, having the one low income rental property associated with the apartment building. If that moves to condos, what is the process as far as selling those condos? Is one of those condos then sold at a lesser rate? Is that part of that process?
Correct. If they ever decide to sell that condo, it has to meet the median household income price point for whatever level of low income they designated that unit, which 50% AMI, 60% AMI, 80%, 100. It really depends.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to verify, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. All right. Is that it for my board comments? Yes.
Let's vote.
Clint, go ahead and make your motion again, please.
I move to approve the tentative map waiver or recommend its approval as stated in the agenda.
I would second.
All in favor, please raise your hands and I'll read your name. Matt Medeiros, Bob Daniel, Stephen Klein, Dennis Saison, Gail Fried, Tom Mulaney, Bill Smith, Clint Daniels.
No, that's by right.
Is there anybody else? No, Stu? No, okay. Let us go to those in opposition of this approval. Please raise your hands. We have Bill Ellig, Roy Dahl, and Stu McGraw. Any abstentions, please raise your hands. No abstentions. Okay, it passes unanimous. Thank you very much for your time, Maggie. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Action item 4 is already approved during our consent discussion. Let us move to our information items. We have the UC San Diego Hillcrest Health Campus update. This evening we have presenters Robert Clausen, the director of the campus planning, unless someone else is filling in.
No. This is David Meyer. I'm the Director of Community Relations here for UC San Diego Health. And I believe Robert will be sharing a screen and providing our update for this evening. But just to cue him up, just first, thank you to the board and to everyone here tonight for this opportunity to provide an update on our Hillcrest Health Campus development plans and efforts. Since our last presentation to the board, we've moved forward with a number of early make-ready projects that we'll be providing some more information on tonight. We'll hopefully give a little bit more detail on the timing of some of the earlier projects and pre-phase 1. So this is our major construction getting underway. But without further ado, we'll kind of make it quick and easy here. I think Robert Clausen.
I'm here. Can someone share the screen?
Yep. Oh, so can Robert share his screen?
Yeah, I'm working on that now. Sorry, one second.
I can.
Let me just find you here. Sorry.
The city planning department has a requirement that their planning staff have IT certification too. So
you're right.
Really important.
I'm a Zoom expert. It only takes me 20 minutes to do this. So.
I've got a couple of viruses at home on my computer. If you can come by later and fix them.
Yeah. You should be able to do it now.
Got it. Yeah. Can you all see the big UC San Diego there?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I'm Robert Clausen, Director of Campus Planning, and I see some familiar faces. We were out in the community. It seems like yesterday, but it was probably a couple of years ago through the development of our campus long-range development plan for our Hillcrest campus. So what we wanted to do today was really give you an update on where we're at with the plan, recognizing that the pandemic did put a little bit of a pause on some of the work that's happening on the campus, but we are ready to move forward with our first phase here, hopefully soon in the fall. So I want to give a little bit of a reminder of what the plan was all about, what we're planning to do, and a little bit more about the timeline, and just kind of to reorient everybody to what's happening there. And we'll be back in the future for any other details that we need to as we kind of progress. So with that, first slide here really shows on the right there, our campus in Hillcrest is about 60 acres, of which about half of that is actually developable. A lot of it is canyon and open space to the north. But our long-range development plan is really a complete rebuild of the campus over several phases. Like I said, we did extensive outreach and public review and came to your group a number of times to get input on the plan. And the Regents approved the plan in November of 2019. And the plan also was accompanied by an environmental impact report, so a very thorough analysis of all the impacts with mitigation identified as well. And what the plan encompasses is a full rebuild of the campus into 5 land use districts that are shown here on this map. The blue represents the new kind of our healthcare district. where the new hospital will be. So one of the key drivers for our plan is replacement with the new hospital of the existing hospital due to the seismic code. So by 2030 plus or minus, we hope to have a new hospital on site. The project also includes new research, new outpatient facilities as well, and rebuilding of parking. So we're taking some parking down and building a new structure. The project also, as we develop the plan, includes preservation of open space, so the canyons to the north. And then another key aspect of the plan is the addition of multifamily housing. So we have 1,000 units planned for the site. That is intended to be workforce housing for UC San Diego affiliates. So it'd be rentals and developed over a couple of phases. We also, in planning out the site, really wanted to prioritize circulation to and from the site. So knowing we're kind of tucked back in the neighborhood, we did a couple of key moves in the plan to improve circulation. And those are shown kind of in the gray area. So this is Bachman coming through the site from Mission Valley. And so that's one way of access to the site. And First Avenue is our other main access. So one of the improvements that we're going to implement is connecting Bachman Place with Arbor Drive. So creating a new intersection here that will allow access, more direct access into the campus, which is important for improving emergency access to the site. We also will be extending First Avenue. It currently dead ends kind of right here where my hand is. So we're going to extend that through the campus to provide access to the new hospital. And finally, we have a new, we call it our north driveway, but it's really sort of the private access that will provide access into the multifamily housing in addition to providing some service for the hospital. That drive will not go through the site. It'll actually go into underground parking that'll go beneath here. So we really wanted to divert the traffic around the site rather than having it all come from Washington Street. And that also was intentional to try to reduce the neighborhood impact. We also heard a lot about open spaces. So a key feature of the plan, if you can hang on with us until we get to the very end, is a new, we call it the Central Green. So there's a 4-acre park that we will put in here at the end of the project once we demo the existing hospital. So that'll be a real key community amenity to provide some additional park space for the neighborhood. So it's really a multi-phased plan. And it'll include a new hospital, as I'd stated, new outpatient facilities. We will replace some research educational uses. We're also intending to prepare at the front end here a gateway facility that we're calling kind of a community wellness facility. So that really will be driven by some public input as well. We want to know what the public would like to see in that facility. So really a community facing type facility, and then multifamily housing. So if you can see this image at the top here, this is the existing campus. This is the existing hospital. We have 2 parking structures, Bachman and Arbor. And then to the north are some of our main research facilities. And then the image to the bottom here is the rebuilt plan. So 2035 plus or minus, this will be the new campus. So it will include a new parking structure that will replace the 2 structures on either side of the site today, new outpatient facility, new research administration space. The new hospital will go to the north of where it is now. Multifamily housing, again, goes to the westerly side of the site. And then the community wellness building would be kind of right at the front here. Arbor's to the north, Front Street and First Avenue. And then the one remaining building would be the one of our outpatient facilities at the south here. So that building will remain. And this is the Unitarian Church. So it exists here, not on campus property. And it's important to note as well, while we do this redevelopment, we have to keep all of those critical services, operations, happening while this happens. So it's a strategically phased project that will build out over time so we can keep all the existing operations going. So here's kind of the overall phasing plan. And when we developed the LRDP, we did a pretty thorough analysis of each of the phases to identify, appropriate mitigations and construction to mitigate some of the construction impacts. So this gives kind of an overall idea of the 5 main phases. And the first phase is here shown in red, which is at the southeast corner of the site. And this is where the first phase will include an outpatient pavilion, new parking structure. We'll connect Arbor Drive with Bachman Place here in the first phase. We'll take down the Bachman parking structure in the first phase, and then we'll build a portion of a new central plant that will also be in this red area here, eventually to be expanded to support the new hospital. The second phases, and we're looking to get that started here pretty soon. As David had mentioned, we have started some early work, which includes some relocations of some of the modular facilities that are on the site, and some early work to get the site prepped for that. But we anticipate that project would be done in around 2025. So it's a pretty significant construction effort. The next 2 phases of work will include the first phase of housing and a multi-use building. So those would track a little bit, in the 2026 timeframe, with multi-use building 2027. Then that allows us to clear the site where the future hospital goes. So a lot of the uses go into these new facilities. So it allows us to demo the facilities that are on the north side of the site here. And again, our target is to have the new hospital by 2030, at which point we'll demo the existing hospital and then build the final phase of housing, which would go in the south portion of the site here in the central green. So all of that is about a 15-year phased project. So the first phase, just a little more detail on that. We are looking to go to the regents for their approval here in the fall. We're targeting September regents for this project. And because we did a pretty thorough analysis in the EIR for the LRDP, and this is consistent with that, we will be doing some CEQA, but it'll be an addendum to that. So we're tearing off of that EIR. And we're doing just, kind of beginning that analysis at this point. So that project includes a demo of Bachman, the new outpatient facility here, which will be just to the east of the existing hospital. And then a new parking structure, which will have capacity to accommodate Arbor and Bachman coming down. So there's going to be roughly 1,800 spaces there, but this will be the future meet existing needs and future needs for the hospital. So you can see that happens. That's about a 10-acre site. And again, we hope to start that later in the fall here. So much more to come. We have our contractor on board and architects. So we're working through some of the logistics with that. And there will be some road impacts. So we'll need to share that with the community and the neighbors as the work unfolds. So as we get more detail, we're happy to share that and have conversations around that. So that's where we're at, and happy to answer any questions.
Great. I think my favorite part is the 4-acre park.
Yeah, sorry you have to wait, but
yeah, that's a long wait, right?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any questions from the public on this presentation? So, do you mind removing your share screen?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Got it.
All right. Any questions from the public? Raise your hands.
Yeah. There was a question about who the housing is for.
Yeah, so the housing is for UC San Diego. It's workforce housing, so it'll be for workers on site, and also would be available for grad students. They're high demand for grad students as well.
There was a second question there from Mary McKenzie as well. The question is, are UCSD and Scripps communicating? Happy to say yes, we are very much communicating. We actually held a coordination meeting on Friday. So our planning department and facilities teams have been, are connecting, will be connecting quarterly, and if not more so, depending on the nature of the projects that are coming up. So definitely close communication.
Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you, David, because, you know, so far, the changes I've seen driving around are at Scripps. Not so much yet at your campus. And so that's why I was asking. So thank you. I'm glad to know that you guys know what each other is doing.
Yeah, it's we actually, our first meeting together was, we were sort of commiserating on the challenges. We face very similar challenges, and we definitely recognize that working together we're very close there, you know, location wise. So we're going to ensure that we meet regularly and communicate and coordinate and collaborate. So we get that.
It's good for competitors. All right.
Planners can talk together. Yeah. We're not competitors.
All right. It looks like Carol Emmerich has a question. Carol?
Yeah, this has to do with how this is all integrated with the community, because when you look at the crime maps, most of the crime in my area, which is this area that we're talking about, is First Avenue front, Arbor, Washington. And how will this community wellness center help address some of the crime in this area? There are a lot of, and most of this crime has to do with people walking around. And a lot of these people have come from the hospitals, both Scripps and UCSD. And they wander into the neighborhoods, and they cause a lot of issues in terms of personal things that they do. So I'm wondering how the hospital is going to address these issues. Will they have public bathrooms that people can use scattered around the campus? Will there be lighting that, you know, I know lighting is bad if you love birds, but how are they going to address all of the crime in the area, especially with 1,000 new people moving in? They're going to be affected by all of this crime that's going on in this particular area.
Well, I'll start, and I'm sure David could add, but from a design perspective, it's actually it's a great opportunity to look at ways to improve the safety. So we work very closely with our, you know, security folks and PD and coordinate there. So just by the fact that we can rebuild and redo the campus, we can address some of the safety through the design. It's a really good question about the wellness block, because that could become an opportunity for I just call it programming. I don't know what that would look like, but I think there's an opportunity there to put something there that might actually be a deterrent maybe to some of this, or something to help the community. So I see opportunities, especially like you said, lighting and those types of things we're definitely going to address in the design. David, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll just mention a little bit about what we're currently doing. So definitely, you know, providing or working with a lot of our service providers that help unsheltered individuals in particular, which may be kind of one of the main kind of sources of some of the crime, or at least with the police being called, the actual response to this community. So, but definitely we're working with a number of community providers. This is part of our community health needs assessment effort and our long-term planning for the health system on the clinical side especially. So definitely the clinical service provider process has been adjusted, and we continue to meet with groups like Path San Diego and other outreach groups. Definitely, like Robert said, we work with the San Diego PD and their HOT team on a number of service delivery and adjustment processes. So yeah, but definitely that is good feedback, especially as we move forward with planning and design for these new projects.
All right. Gerald, go ahead. You have one more.
Yeah, just one more comment. These are not police issues. These are more the psychiatric emergency kinds of people who respond to the kinds of behavior and activity. So I'm just hoping a lot more of this can be incorporated and into the design of the hospital and the people that they're having there. And I hope the community is more involved in these issues with the hospital.
Actually, Carol, you just reminded me of the best kind of update that we have. So I don't know if everyone else has heard, but in recent months, Supervisor Nathan Fletcher and our health system have been working very closely on a proposed new behavioral health hub, specifically to readjust and reacclimate our behavioral health service delivery model here in San Diego. The Third Avenue, or the proposed Third Avenue Behavioral Health Hub would be one such improvement or change to the service delivery model of this region. So definitely there are other conversations or pieces to kind of the broader map or placement of a lot of these services. And concurrently, Robert, I don't know if we could say anything about kind of the nature of that project, or I think it's more of a county kind of timeline really for the behavioral health hub. So we could really let them kind of speak to that. But definitely we are working with the County of San Diego's Health and Human Services on redesigning our behavioral health service model in the county.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any board comments, questions for these gentlemen? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple comments and a question. I was curious how many stories on the buildings for the employee housing, how high are you going to go up? I've been suggesting that the higher you go, the more green space you can make available in the area. So that's one question. The other is, have you done any fire evacuation planning? If a fire came up the hill from Mission Valley, how do you get all those people out of there through Washington Street and up through that area? And then just a question I asked the people at Scripps, how much money are you spending on the project? They told me it was $1 billion. I thought that was a hell of an investment in our community. So let's see if you can outdo that.
You want us to spend $1 billion? Well,
yeah, sure, maybe $2 billion.
I'm not sure, Patty Mason. We don't have $1 billion. So the first question on the heights of the residential. So it sort of was a balance as we were looking at design guidelines for that. Now they're not designed yet, but our intention is that they would be no taller than the existing hospital height, which our hospital I think is 10 or 11 stories. But with that in mind, we definitely wanted to go tall so that we could add, additional open space around that, but not so tall where it created an aesthetic issue. So sort of it'll be a balance. And I think as we actually design the housing, you'll get to see that. So not quite designed, but that's the intent to do that. For fire, yeah, so our plans are reviewed at the conceptual level for fire safety, and we do have that will be something we'll work with our fire marshal on to ensure that there's safe access. At the conceptual level, it all works, but as we design it, we'll make sure we check in with those groups.
Yes.
You had one more question. Did we answer your question, or just do we have $1 billion? We don't have $1 billion.
How much are you investing in our community?
Oh,
$500 million?
More than that.
Yeah, the investment is fairly significant. I want to say, the hospital alone is up there. I can't confirm $1 billion specifically, but it is a fairly sizable investment.
Thank you.
And that's a moving target if it's going to take 15 years to do this project.
Yeah, just the hospital, right? That's a very expensive space. So, but yeah, I mean, we even see the workforce housing as a amenity to the community, right? So we can build it on our campus. It just hopefully there's a need out in the community as well. So we're hoping to just be sort of part of the solution as much as we can, keep people on the campus, minimize traffic impacts as well. So
I have a quick question.
Go ahead,
Yeah, actually, a two-part question. The first one is, yeah, it's fantastic. I appreciate the $1 billion or whatever it is, but my simple question is, UCSD a nonprofit, or as I would expect, you hope to make this a win-win for you and for the community? But the more important question is, which portion of this whole development is ministerial and how much is discretionary? And if it's mostly ministerial, do we need to be spending so much time on it? I appreciate all the time you put into it.
Yeah,
it's community outreach.
Yeah, so we're not required to go through city process. So we go through the University California Regents. That's our approval body. So we appreciate your time. So we're really here just providing updates. We do appreciate the input and feedback because we believe it makes our projects better. So right, we don't need your approval, but we want your approval with a small a, if you know what I mean.
I do appreciate the fact that actually I appreciate it all the more. You don't need it, but you're here anyway. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you very much for presenting. Love the idea, that 4-acre public park area, fantastic. Not to dwell too much on the financing, but you have sort of the hospital, and then you have the workforce housing. How is it financed? I mean, just sort of to educate me from a civics point of view, is this done with bond money? Is it done with tax money? Is it done with money coming from the students that are paying tuition?
We get no state funding, so it's the hospital itself is basically debt financing, so it's externally financed and then paid through, and we're break even, right? That's the intention. The multifamily housing will actually be a public-private partnership, so we'll partner with the developer and kind of a ground lease model where the rents and likewise. So, and actually the revenue we'll get through the ground lease will help us pay for some of the other infrastructure on site. So the central plant, the road work. So the housing is also part of our strategy to help finance some of the other work. So we have to be really creative in order to make all this work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Clint, you got a question, comment?
Yeah, so thank you for making the presentation and thank you for making the investment in the community. I think with Scripps and with UCSD, this is great to have, 2 first-class hospitals in Uptown, and to the extent that it is official or unofficial, having a quasi-public hospital in our neighborhood is also really great. I guess my comment is the same as I had during the EIR, and every time you come and talk to us, I'll probably say the same thing. But as a state agency, and I know maybe UCSD might bristle at being called a state agency, but as a state agency, I mean, I think you guys have a real opportunity to set a standard for how the private sector operates when it comes to climate change. And I didn't hear too much here about transit connections or bike connections to the facility. And so I would just really encourage you to look at how to better connect the facility with transit, both to Mission Valley, as well as the Uptown community. And, in your EIR, you stated that mobile sources of emissions are your largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions from this campus. And so anything you can do, including removing parking spots, would be a helpful contributor to reducing those greenhouse gas emissions. And again, as a state project, you don't need to follow the city's rules. So feel free to go for more than 1,000 housing units if you want to.
Yes, I remember your comment on just on sustainability. So the UC, this will follow our UC sustainability practices, which is for the most part, more stringent than the city. You know, so we also have a greenhouse gas reduction strategy that we're implementing with the development. So we're going to track and you know, metric all of these things. We also, I think, we're looking at our central plant. I think originally we had it as a kind of gas turbine type thing that was not good. So we're actually going electric on that. So that was one of the main contributors to climate impact. So we've hopefully fixed that problem by not going with cogeneration. So, but yeah, we appreciate the comment on that. I think each project that we do presents its own challenge, but we do want to set the bar a little bit higher if we possibly can within budget. But yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, you have a comment question? You have to take yourself off the mute. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Uptown has stated impact fees that cover parks, a small share of fire stations and libraries and transportation. And those impact fees are based on the number of units. So as a state project, will this project be paying impact fees?
No.
Okay, I'd like to say to the board and also Mr. Clausen, this is a major issue. Our impact fees are approximately $11,000 per unit. And what's been said many times, not just by me, when the facilities are not covered on a new project, the existing facilities just become overburdened. So 1,000 units, attached units have approximately 2 people per unit. So this project adds 2,000 residents to that neighborhood. The standard requirement for the city, 2.8 acres per 1,000 residents, would be 5.6 acres. So although I'd like to think of this 4 acres as a community amenity, it's really not even enough to accommodate the residents in that area. So I don't know what the resolution of that is, but I want everyone to be aware when a project goes in without impact fees, the community gets stuck with all the impacts with no compensation.
So I would add to that that we in the EIR we did identify you know, we did a full thorough EIR. We have mitigations for the impact. So for the traffic, as an example, we will be widening Bachman Drive. We will be improving circulation up through off Bachman as well. So all of those are improvements to mitigate the traffic impact. We're just talking on the traffic side. So while we're not required to pay developer fees, we do mitigate all of the impacts as required. So there's a tremendous amount of work that's going to happen to mitigate a lot of these issues. So, and we're doing it ourselves.
And that EIR, is that posted on the website?
Yeah, we have the LRDP and the EIR is all on our website. I'll put that in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
That's
that'd be
for you
helpful.
to get. Yep. And
thank you.
Sure.
Just as a point of reference, Tom, we submitted a letter supporting the EIR about 2 years ago as Uptown planners. So we did have a discussion about the EIR, this group.
2 years ago, really? I had a second question. Sohail?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Tom, please.
Yeah, so my second question was helicopter noise. I was at a residence more than once near the hospital, and helicopter noise is somewhat extreme. Any ideas on mitigating that?
So the future helicopter pad will be on top of the new hospital. So fortunately, that will push it further north and away from the residences. So the future condition should be less of an impact than it is today.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. I see another public comment here. Paul Jameson, would you like to add a comment or question here?
Yeah, I had a question about the number of units, and that was just answered. So I would kind of second Clint's suggestions for increasing the number of housing units if possible, and further exploring alternative transit and bike connections I work on main campus at UC San Diego. Sometimes I'll take the shuttle from Hillcrest up to main campus. And I lead a team of IT engineers, and even they are having trouble, affording to live in San Diego because of how expensive it is in terms of housing and transportation. I think the trolley is going to help with main campus, in particular, reducing some of those costs, not having to own a car to get up there. But this is a really big problem where people often take less money to work at UC San Diego than they could in the private sector. And so we get people who care about making a difference, and that's why they work at UCSD. But even those folks now are struggling or having to go elsewhere or leave the city just because it's so unaffordable here. So I just want to, again, encourage as much housing here as possible. And I just wanted to make one last mention about the impact fees. UC San Diego is not a developer, right? So they're not contributing the impact fees, and that's a good point that you're making, Tom. But I wanted to talk about the impact that UC San Diego has on our region. Huge job generator in terms of a lot of them employees. But I've seen during this pandemic just the incredible contribution that UC San Diego Health has made. It's been incredible in terms of what they're doing in terms of testing and in terms of vaccines and distribution. So I get the impact fee point that you're making, Tom, but let's not forget about the other intangibles that UC San Diego provides to our region and the huge impact that they make financially and in many ways to San Diego. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I think we're good here, unless I missed anybody else. No, wonderful. All right, Robert, David.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, let us go to the final information item, which I will just read out loud for everyone. It's a little update on the Maple Canyon restoration. Phase 1 will begin shortly. The work includes replacing approximately 262 lineal feet of storm drain pipes in the Uptown community. The project is located at 2 locations, 4th Avenue and Redwood Street and 4th Avenue and Quint Street. Construction is expected to start in spring of this year and continue through winter. There were flyers that were posted. If you'd like more information, feel free to check out those flyers. I live right on Maple Canyon, so I'm basically experiencing some of these improvements as we speak. The city is actually asking to rent a portion of my property as an easement for this 3-year-long project that they're going to be doing with the storm drain upgrades. It is much, much needed. The damage that the old infrastructure lines have created in Maple Canyon is just, it's unbelievable. It's so third world. You would be shocked with what you see. So it's great that they have the funding, and I believe it's actually state funding that they have for this project, which means the local city cannot take that money away and allow them to actually execute. Any questions? Let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate everybody's time this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. We'll see you next time.
Gail, I'll get you the video to upload to the website following once it's generated and all that. Great. Oh, you're on mute, but have a good night.
Good. Have a good night. Bye.
Yep.